Hello everyone, this is part 17 of What If Naruto Got His Wish, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. The village hidden in the leaves was in good hands. Its Hokage was still alive and strong, getting the wounded back on their feet and overseeing the reconstruction effort with a watchful eye and a strong governing hand. The posts of the D were being manned by Konoha's allies, the Suna shinobi, who were captained by Kankuro and Temari, the Kazekage having returned to his own village, where reports of hidden rock scouts were already trickling in. Those who hadn't D went on with their missions, continuing to bring revenue into the shinobi's coffers. Konoha would continue to thrive, and would be strong again quickly. But before tranquility set in again, there were other matters to deal with besides the reconstruction and defense. The Hyuga clan, though it had not been was going to be going through a structural overhaul, its advisory council gone and its branch families lacking an official leader. Some of the members of the village council had been Reports were coming in of strange activity in the country of water, seemingly verifying the information given by the prisoner, Uchiha Sasuke, who was himself an enigma. And most mystifyingly, 2 high-level ninjas had disappeared without a trace. It was these last 2 issues that Tsunade, the Godime Hokage, called together 6 of her most trusted shinobi to address. Before her they stood, attentive and quiet, waiting for her to begin. Tsunade herself looked them up and down. They had healed up quite nicely, though the wear and tear on their souls was prominent in their eyes. This wear did not deter Tsunade, however. These were shinobi that had survived trials of unspeakable difficulty and prevailed, and that made them trustworthy. Let's begin, she said. I know you've all seen a lot in these last few days. Only 3 days ago, we suffered the largest loss since the Sand and Sound invasion almost 3 years before. Each of you suffered in keeping the village safe, and for that I want to thank you. But I need to ask you to put aside your pain and fatigue, because another task needs doing that I will trust with no one else. Can I rely on all of you? No problem, Tsunade Bar-chan, asserted the young man on the far right. His blue eyes sparkled at the prospect of action, and the Hokage could not help but grin warmly at the blonde-haired boy wonder. I also am ready, Hokage-sama, agreed the soft-spoken girl next to him. The pearls of her eyes focused on Tsunade when she spoke, but the Hokage noted that she flicked them towards Naruto often. The boy had only been released from the hospital this morning. She was worried that he might re-injure himself if he pushed it too hard. Naruto noticed and gave her a smile, attempting to reassure her, though something in his eyes suggested to Tsunade that all was not quite well within his mind. The girl, however, did not question it. I will obey your commands, Hokage-sama, declared the handsome youth standing protectively Hinata's other side. He seemed to notice the silent interchange between the two on his right, but did not react. He knew that his attention was owed to the Hokage, and kept his silver eyes focused forward. He would assess the situation with them later. We're good to go, aren't we, Akamaru? Woof. Tsunade smiled at the young man and the huge dog that sat wagging his tail behind him. These two had also recovered remarkably quickly, a testament to the strength of their bond. The boy seemed a little miffed at having been able to do so little against Hanabi's assassins, but his joy at surviving and being able to stand with his faithful pet again outweighed it. He was ready. The heavily bundled figure to Kiba's left merely nodded his head. He was as quietly composed as ever, a trait that would prove invaluable in a mission of this kind. Silently admiring his unrivaled cool-headedness, Tsunade turned her focus to the last of the 6. The Hokage's pink-haired apprentice was different from before. It was not a large difference. She still had the attentiveness, the desire and drive to improve herself, and the care for her friends. But there was a subtle change in the way she bore herself and in her green gaze. She seemed somehow more relaxed, more at peace. Tsunade was pleased to see that Sakura's past mistakes no longer haunted her. Hi, Tsunade-sama. Good, Tsunade said. She rose from her desk and walked to stand before one of the windows of the office, looking out over the village. From this spot, she swept her gaze across the damage and the crews working to repair it. The sun was bright today, a fine day to begin a journey. Satisfied, the Godime began the briefing. Your mission has 2 purposes, she said. It is a combination of reconnaissance and rescue. Uzumaki Naruto and Hyuga Neji, I am entrusting the two of you with the care of our prisoner, Uchiha Sasuke. A sharp intake of breath was heard from several of those gathered, but Tsunade held up her hand, stopping all questions before they began. Do not argue with me about it. He was Naruto's prisoner to begin with, and as his former close teammate, Naruto is the one who will know best what to make of Uchiha's words and actions. Neji is very skilled at reading people, and will be able to warn the others if he suspects danger from him. They will have full responsibility for him. If you have a problem with the prisoner, take it up with one of them. The six remained hushed. For only two people to be trusted with such a dangerous criminal. The shock of it was astounding. Still, none of them could bring themselves to argue the point. The Hokage's word was law, and Shinobi had to be able to trust her reasoning. As I was saying, Tsunade continued, your mission is twofold. Uchiha Sasuke will guide you to the grave, a wasteland region between the earth and rice field countries. We have cause to believe that Orochimaru might be going there. If he is, you will perform reconnaissance, acquiring information about his planned movements and actions, locations of his other strongholds, and the status of his strength, military power and the strength of his current body. This is not an omission. Do not attack without cause, and if you are attacked and able to run, then run. She paused to allow questions. When there were none, she continued. Second, we believe that Haka no Keisuke, who disappeared in the chaos of the invasion, was captured by Orochimaru's agents, and that Orochimaru is attempting to extract or replicate his unique abilities. Conduct a thorough search for him and, if you find him, rescue him using any means necessary. He is a shinobi of the leaf, and we will not leave him behind. Tsunade Ba-chan asked Naruto when she stopped. Why aren't you sending Haruka Ne-chan with us? She's been Keisuke Ni-chan's partner for 2 years. I know she really wants to bring him back. Tsunade grimaced. Naruto probably knew better than she did. After all, the boy had only 3 years ago tried and failed to bring back his own best friend, the traitor Uchiha. The failure had been haunting him for years, and though he managed to get over it and work on becoming stronger, it undoubtedly must have hurt him on the inside. Knowing what loss could do to a person, was it right to deny Haruka even the chance to try? She sighed. This was all so hard on her already aching head. I did not call her here because of her deplorable behavior in the aftermath of the battle. As much as I'm sure you're right, Naruto, I cannot allow such an unstable shinobi to go into battle. Then again, she said, considering, I haven't heard a word out of her since her episode at the hospital. Where has she been for the last 2 days? Naruto did not know, and did not speak. Hinata, however, did. I saw her once, Hokage-sama. She was in Keisuke-san's house. The place was a mess, and the walls were out in places, as though she had been checking behind them. But when I found her there, she was just sitting quietly in the middle of the living room, looking at nothing, and when I tried to talk to her, she asked me politely to go away. This could be trouble, Tsunade thought. From what I've heard, Hyuga Haruka being quiet and polite is about as bad as Naruto rejecting ramen. And the fact that she's doing it in that place doesn't help. Very well, she said, making a decision, Hinata, Naruto, and Neji, the 3 of you go to her before you leave. If she appears to sane and can function with a sense of normalcy, then take her with you. If not, leave her here. I don't want any unchecked emotions jeopardizing this mission. Understood. When she received 3 affirmatives, the Hokage nodded and went on. Hyuga Neji, you will be the official team leader. Take charge and do not fail, this mission could give us critical information. Neji straightened. Hi, Hokage-sama. Tsunade nodded in satisfaction. All right, everyone but Naruto, you are dismissed. Neji, I want you to have them ready to depart before sunset. Go. Naruto and Tsunade watched as the other 5 filed out of the room. Neji closed the door behind them. The Godime waited until the last of the footsteps faded away before clearing her throat. Ba-chan, why did you have me stay behind? If it's about my seal, it's fine. It doesn't hurt. Uzumaki Naruto, the Hokage said, maintaining an air of authority, I have read the reports of your performance in the battle 3 days ago. After much review, The survivors of the village council and the officials in the shinobi registry office have agreed that you have demonstrated phenomenal combat capability, a capable and quick-thinking mind for battle, and the ability to know what is important and act rightly even in the face of death. Naruto's eyebrows raised, and he stared at her in awe. He hadn't been complimented this much by an adult in a long time. And he'd never been complimented seriously by anyone using an official-sounding tone. Where was she going with this? I regret that we do not have the time or resources to give you the badges of your new station, she apologized, but that will be remedied upon your safe return. New station. Naruto suddenly seemed to comprehend, but wasn't quite believing it. Bar-chan, you don't really, do you? Tsunade smiled wide, dropped the authoritative tone, and put a hand on his shoulder. Congratulations, Naruto, she said, on your promotion to the Chunin level. Haruka sat in shadow within the emptiness of the house, her thoughts on its last inhabitant. She remembered clearly the last moments she had had with him, the last things they'd said. You'd better hide yourself well, you big blind dolt. If I come back here and you're I'll be really mad at you for taking away my favorite doormat. Now, I've got things to undoubtedly. Don't have too much fun, though, Leave one for me to talk to later. I won't promise anything, but I'll try. Later. The old game. The absence of the sadist and blind fool bee that they'd hurled back and forth at each other for 2 years gnawed at her. Damn it, she whispered to herself and to no one, I didn't know I'd gotten so dependent on all those insults. It was so unfair. Keisuke had just achieved one of his life's greatest goals, and brought his lost children back into the light. So unfair. They'd only just patched up the partnership, and now the two of them were torn apart again by outside forces. Yes, she'd responded irrationally to his disappearance, but damn it, the sheer unfairness of it made her mad as hell. Haruka-san. Haruka-ne-chan. Hinata. Naruto. As it had before, when Hinata had visited her, the guilt humbled Haruka. Staring at the floor, she answered him without energy. I'm fine, Naruto-kun, she said softly. I'm just recovering, you know, after all that fighting. Naruto's concern did not fade, but he chose not to pursue a more honest answer. Instead, he said what he'd come to say, laying it all out on the table for her without any nonsense to accompany it. Ne-chan, we're going to go find Orochimaru. We think he has Keisuke Ni-chan with him. We want you to go with us. Haruka's head perked up. After she had interrupted an interrogation and threatened the health of him and Hinata, they were still interested in keeping her around. And what was that about finding Keisuke? Naruto kept talking, hoping to get a response. The thing is, there's only me, Hinata, Neji, Kiba, Shino, and Sakura going, since everyone else is either working on the village or doing other missions, and we'd all feel better if we had one more person. You never know if we might get caught between a wall and some patrol, or if our guide might lead us astray. That and. The blonde looked at her pleadingly, as though begging a favor. What was this all about? Well, Hinata and I were wondering if you might teach us a little bit more about the synchronization jutsu. It saved our lives against Sasuke, and we thought if you had any tips, you know. Haruka felt ashamed and relieved at the same time. She had such good and forgiving friends, and she had hidden herself away like a depressed elf, rejecting their help. And if Keisuke could have watched the way she was acting now, he would have laughed himself silly. She could just imagine his eyeless face contorted with mirth. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Is that really you, Haruka? What happened to the S, who never took S from anyone, even herself? She was blank-faced for a moment, imagining it. Then, her lips formed a smirk, and she raised her head. I'm right here, you damned idiot. Just how blind can you get? Let's go, she said. There was no rage in her voice, only the determination and cunning that was the S. We're going to bring that blind bastard back here, and then he'll get a whipping he'll never forget. You made the Hyuga see again. In return, I'll make this Orochimaru bastard see death. Yet, after hour upon hour of tea examination, his captor finally halted. Gasping for breath, Keisuke could barely hear Orochimaru speak over the frantic thumping of his own heart. Well, said the snake Sannin, I'm afraid that we can do no more today. My body is weakening, and must rest before we continue. And when I awaken, we must travel. But not to worry, my blind friend, you will be entertained until I return. A gift to you, said the Serpentine Master, in honor of our renewed acquaintance. Dreams he never imagined he would see again. Keisuke watched them and wished that he could scream. They were the worst kind of nightmare, because each and every one of them had actually happened. Somewhere in the forests north of Konoha. The sun had passed its high point this day, and was in the middle of its descent beyond the western horizon. Already the golden light was beginning to bring glorious color to the few stray clouds that floated in the distance, and one staring up into this magnificent sky could almost be drawn up and away, lost in a land of bright, beautiful dreams. The colors bled down through the dense, leafy canopy, illuminating the forest floor in shimmering brilliance. However, not all of the things that were in the forest shared that vision of blessed sleep. A single figure, garbed in black and orange, crouched on a thick tree limb in the shadow of the canopy. This figure wore a Hittite 8 engraved with a leaf, below which deep blue eyes peered out, surveying the woods to the south. He also had spiky golden hair and birthmarks shaped like whiskers on either side of his face. Shifting his weight uncomfortably, he strained to keep his eyes focused on the thicket in front of him. Any moment now, the thing he was watching for might come speeding through, and if he missed it, then the entire effort could be compromised. He had been waiting a long time already. If he waited this long only to fail, then he might as well have the word, Dobe, stamped across his forehead instead of the sign of the caged bird. That very seal prickled suddenly, causing him to at his forehead in irritation. He was so distracted by this impromptu discomfort that he nearly missed sighting the target. As it was, he was lucky enough to pick up the movement in his peripheral vision as it came zooming towards the northern ravine from the southeast, ruffling leaves as it went. Pulling his forehead protector snugly around his head once more, he forgot his distraction and focused on the task. It was show time. The figure tapped a button on his radio, sending the silent signal spinning through the airwaves to his partner in the ravine. The single low tone that his partner would hear would give the confirmation of the sighting and put her on her guard, ready to spring the trap as the target walked into it. He waited until the target was half a kilometer away before he leaped from the branch, following in its wake. A grin crossed his face. After all that waiting around, it was finally time for action. As chaotic as his mind had become these days, Uzumaki Naruto still got wonderfully high on action. Within minutes, the target left the trees and crossed into the rocky canyon. Naruto could see him now, clad entirely in black and wearing a full face mask. No part of the enemy's body was visible and he carried no village insignia, but that was to be expected. The target description had specified this explicitly. As they neared the designated ambush point, a particularly narrow section in the ravine, Naruto keyed his radio again, this time in a burst of 3 shorter taps. This was the final warning to his partner that the moment was at hand. He had no doubt in his mind that she could see the enemy by now, but this was protocol, and it was better to be safe than sorry, a lesson he had learned early on in his first year with the Toad Sannin. He got 2 short tones in his own earpieces, confirming that everything was in place. His grin widened. Of course she would be ready by now, she was a reliable girl. Damn it, the black-clad target said as Naruto caught up with him. I should have smelled that one coming. Too late now. Naruto shouted. Give up. What? Now? Asked the victim incredulously. Not on your life. He formed a single seal with his hands. Shikyaku no Jutsu. 4-legged technique. Now there was no doubt about the Idini of Naruto's opponent, but that didn't help the blonde against his superior speed. Naruto was forced to put all of his agility to work, dodging the repeat claw-like swipes from multiple directions. Naruto kept his guard up, looking for an opening through which he could attack. 8 seconds into combat, he found it. Here's a new one, he said as he completed it. Then, he sucked in a huge breath in preparation for the jutsu that would his enemy more forcefully than originally predicted, and perhaps more than was necessary, into the canyon wall. Fuyuten, Renkuden, wind style, compressed air bullet. Kuchio's no jutsu, summoning technique. He, said the enemy, you fell for it. How are you going to deal with both of us the way you are now? We'll deal with it just fine, Naruto said, since it'll be 2 on 2. The opponent looked up into the beautifully colored sky just in time to see and dodge the incoming attack. Good timing, Hinata, said Naruto as his partner landed, light-footed, on his left. I'm sorry, Naruto-kun, said the girl, her long, dark hair fluttering in the breeze generated by the aftershock. I took too long to make sure the trap would hold. No big deal, Naruto said, shrugging it off with a smile. I could hold these two clowns off forever. The enemy started. What was that, you punk? The dog yipped angrily with his master, and Naruto laughed. If you've got time to call me names, then you should use it to think about how to save yourself. You ready, Hinata? The girl, who had watched the interchange with a somewhat nervous look in her eyes, immediately straightened, preparing herself for the fight ahead. Yes, she said with genuine enthusiasm. This would be the first time she and Naruto had used this technique in the field since the conflict with Sasuke back in Konoha. She was eager to see how their skill had improved. Veins popped out around the sockets of her pearly eyes. Byakugan. Naruto lifted several small Velcro flaps on his jacket. Okay, he yelled, snaking the arms out to reach his white-eyed partner. Sync. Synchronization complete, he intoned confidently. He felt the sense of power and awareness flow into him as Hinata's chakra and senses became one with his own. Through the connection, he also became aware of Hinata's reaction to the new resources. She was still whelmed by the new and sudden sensations, but she seemed to be getting used to the feeling, for she was not overpowered and was ready to fight in half a heartbeat. Let's go, he shouted. The two of them ran full out towards the human and beast enemies. Testing a silent communication technique that he and Hinata had worked on, he pulled a piece of Hinata's chakra from the combined energy pool and focused it on his left side, which was the side the dog was on. It seemed to work. Using the shared all-seeing Byakugan vision, he watched as Hinata pulled a piece of his chakra and compacted it on her right side, indicating the human opponent. The enemy charged as well, offense being their best defense. Just before impact, Naruto and Hinata changed sides, each coming at the opponent that he or she had indicated, and opposite from the opponent they'd each been facing. Naruto held tightly to him, however. As the beast came down from a particularly high leap, the blonde formed the hand seal for his bread and butter ninjutsu. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. 5 shadow clones burst into being around Naruto, leaping off the dog's back to the ground below. You're through, you smut, Naruto said, vaulting off of the beast and running to join Hinata. If they could defeat the human quickly enough, they could deal with the monster dog alone. Hinata had been forced into a defensive position, as the human once again resorted to his Shikyaku no Jutsu and ran around the ravine on 4 legs. Hinata remained stationary as the beast man zipped around her, dancing around his attacks while having her own strikes evaded by the speedy moving target. When Naruto arrived, however, there were only so many places that he could run. We've got you now, the blonde shouted. Surrender or get creamed, your choice. Damn it, the enemy said. You're crafty, but we'll get around that with enough force. Take this, Chuga. Piercing fang. Naruto was quick on his feet, and dodged it easily. But the attack was never meant to hit Naruto. The man's objective was to make him get out of the way, which the Chuga did very well. Once past Naruto, the beast man came out of his cyclone motion and bolted on all 4s for his animal, leaping onto its back with determination in his feral eyes. We'll show you real synchronization, he cried. Jinju Kombi Henge, Sautoro. Human-beast combination transformation, double-headed wolf. From out of the cloud of white smoke emerged the form of the largest canine Naruto had ever seen. It was easily 6 meters tall, possessing snow-white fur and 2 massive heads, each of which was the size of a man. This monstrosity glared down at Naruto with infinite malice as it dispatched his clones with 2 swipes of its paws. Hey, Naruto scoffed, pulling out a kunai, you don't scare me at all. The blonde took advantage of his partner's superior vision, and the Byakugan told him all of the Sautoro's secrets, including where the human in the transformation was hiding. Reverting back to his own eyes, he stared up at the right head. There, he thought. Hinata, he called, I'm going to take this thing apart. Wait here and don't let the human get away. Without waiting to hear a response, he charged the monster dog head on. The enemy didn't wait around to be hit, and sped away to the left. Naruto couldn't keep up with it at all, but this was part of the game. If the enemy was to win, it had to attack at some point. Sure enough, when the dog had gone a sufficient distance, it turned and raged back towards him, becoming a whirlwind of brute force. Garuga, double wolf fang. Naruto knew this move. He'd seen it practiced several times since he'd returned to Konoha, in the forest where Team 8 trained. He waited until the enemy was almost upon him before collecting a huge amount of chakra from the combined pull beneath his feet and launching himself into the air. He felt the connection between him and Hinata come apart as he went beyond the synchronization's range, but did not worry much about it. It could be easily re-established once he landed. The huge dog came out of its spin and began to skid to a stop, intending to turn and try again. In his present upward trajectory, Naruto wouldn't have any time to drop down and get ready. But Naruto wasn't about to let himself stay up there that long. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. That'll teach. Juken. The sounds of battle behind caught Naruto's attention. In the glory of the win, he had momentarily forgotten to redo the sync. Turning, he saw that Hinata was under assault by a second black-clad ninja, this one a female. He had backup. Naruto thought frantically as he rushed to help her. His ghostly arms flew back in her direction, trying to reconnect their chakra and senses. It was more difficult to sync with a moving target, but after a few awkward tries, he did it. Hinata seemed to be somewhat disadvantaged. The opponent fought using the same fighting style, but was far more aggressive, attacking with remorseless speed, not wanting to give Hinata a chance to get her own attack off. Hinata hadn't been hit even glancingly, but she certainly wasn't hitting anything herself. Naruto closed the distance between them rapidly, aiming to interfere. The enemy was aware, intelligent, and agile, for she managed to detect Naruto's approach, then feint a huge death blow at Hinata, causing her to dodge the wrong way, and blast a gale of forceful chakra at Naruto all in the same fluid movement. Naruto reacted by leaping to his right, evading the whirlwind. Then he grinned. She's good at keeping away interference, he thought, but we'll fix that. Hinata, it'll be up to you. Will you remember the technique we were working on? Hinata couldn't hear his thoughts. The powers of the synchronization jutsu didn't extend quite that far, but Naruto thought he felt her sense that he was planning something. Deciding to put faith in her ability to think fast, he worked the Kage Bunshin jutsu for the third time, surrounding the female opponent with 4 clones. As one, all of them plus the real one swarmed toward the Hyuga girl and her opponent from all directions. The enemy responded practically, disengaging from Hinata temporarily to deal with this new threat. She began to twirl around, slowly at first, but gaining speed quickly. Hack Shokai, ha. The enemy stopped twirling suddenly as she felt herself struck behind the kneecaps. Looking down, she saw Hinata's fingers pressed solidly into the pair of tenketsu there. It was not a large hack manipulation, but it did its job. She might have been able to fight, still, if she had been given time to disentangle herself and get back into her stance. Naruto used this first clone as a springboard, leaping off of its back and sailing high into the air. The other 3 clones dropped to the ground, sliding the rest of the way towards the woman and delivering 3 sharp upward kicks, launching her towards the brilliantly colored sky. Naruto. Damn, this is it, thought the woman. Then she saw the Hyuga girl below her, arms crossed in front of her chest. Hinata's palms were gleaming brilliant blue with concentrated chakra. The woman knew then that she was going to hurt very, very badly. As she neared the ground, Hinata's arms uncrossed. Nibai Kirit Kombi Renden. Entire name, Uzumaki Naruto Twin Cutter Combo. That's AK, Naruto said. You're out, Haruka Ne-chan. Haruka, now being D, no longer had any need to keep her mask on, and removed it. Her face was set in a scowl, having been soundly beaten by 2 kids, even special kids like these. Haruka's tendency to be a sore loser remained manifest even in these dark times. Extricating herself from Naruto's clone, she stomped on it once, causing it to puff into smoke as she pulled her long midnight-colored hair out of the back of her shirt. It was loose from its braid, and it fluttered wildly as the wind picked up. HMPH, she said, I'd congratulate you, Naruto-kun, but it's not quite over yet. There's still the Doen to recover from the other target. Kiba, Naruto asked, waving off her statement, I already took care of him. Think again, Naruto. Garchuga, yelled the voice of the first target, followed shortly by the echoing grinding generated by the clearing of the rock pile trap. Crap, Naruto shouted, sprinting after him. But Kiba and Akamaru were too far away already, and after quickly clearing the rubble, Kiba hopped onto his pet's back and the 2 sprinted away into the receding daylight, much too fast for Naruto to catch up. In moments, they rounded a corner in the ravine and were gone. At the travelers' camp, gathered around the fire. Really, it's all right, Naruto-kun, Hinata said, patching a wound on Naruto's arm. We did very well. Naruto sighed heavily. Yeah, he conceded, we did. But that doesn't change the fact that I screwed up again. I've been making too many damned mistakes since we left. That's nothing new, said Kiba with a smirk. He was pleased that he'd had some small triumph that day, even if Naruto had been handicapped. Shut up, Kiba, Naruto said, glaring at him. If I could have used my other Ryu techniques. That's not the point, Naruto-kun, interrupted Haruka between bites of dried jerky. That practice was meant to measure the effectiveness of the synchronization jutsu only. Letting you use the other Ryu maneuvers or the Kyuubi's chakra would have made it too easy for you. Incidentally, your teamwork with the sync is getting better. Not the best tactics against Satoru, though, you should have distracted it and let Hinata do the demolition work. Naruto didn't say anything. He gulped down the last of his cup ramen and got up from the log he sat on, pulling on his jacket. Going to practice, he grunted, and started off into the moonlit forest. Hinata frowned. She'd been trying to cheer him up since their ultimate loss to Kiba's thick hide, but had had little success. This wasn't the first time, either. Naruto had been uncharacteristically moody since the little group had left the village, and this manifested primarily whenever Naruto experienced an undeniable failure. Minor failures, such as the repeat trial and error process of learning a new technique, did not faze him. He had never allowed such things to get in his way before, and likely never would. But an unrectifiable mistake. Naruto-kun, Hinata said, her voice soft but, out of necessity, firmer than she'd like it to be. Naruto ceased walking and turned to look over his shoulder at her. You must not let yourself get so depressed. Kiba-kun is right, you've always made mistakes. But please, remember, this is what makes you stronger. You always get back up and keep going. A proud failure, capable of anything because he has the strength to carry on. Naruto heard the words and, after taking a moment to absorb them, cracked a wide smile. He did remember the first time that she had spoken those words, 3 years ago, and then proving them himself time and time again throughout his training. He looked at Hinata, saw the care and worry she held for him in her liquid white eyes and pale, beautiful face. Seeing such a sight, his anger fled. You're right, Hinata, he said. I do have that strength. Just gotta keep at it. Good luck with your practice, Naruto-kun, she said. Hee, thanks, returned Naruto. If I don't come back in an hour or two, come drag me back. I might just be too much of a proud failure for my own good. Don't worry, Haruka said. She tossed her half-empty water cup to Kiba, who floundered to catch it without dropping his own. Responding with only a slight widening of his smile, Naruto turned and left, off to continue his practice. Hinata didn't go with him for his evening session. Naruto always used the late hours to work on his wind jutsu, which Hinata had little use for and which were often, in a word, harmful to things in the immediate vicinity. Why Naruto had suddenly decided to pursue wind jutsu nobody was entirely sure, for he had said nothing about it and nobody had felt compelled to ask. As his form disappeared from view into the darkness of the night, Hinata emitted a heavy sigh. I can't understand what has happened to him, she said. He never used to get so upset like this. He's not the only one, came a female voice emerging from one of the tents. Hinata turned. What do you mean, Sakura-chan? She asked. Neji, replied the pink-haired medical ninja. Her green eyes showed signs of wear as she took a seat next to her dark-haired friend. He's not very happy, having to deal with him all day. Everyone present knew what Sakura meant by him. Akamaru gave a low whimper, perhaps in sympathy for Neji, or perhaps out of a fearful memory. The big dog had stood in the presence of the Dark Uchiha Avenger on the night of the terrible invasion, and had seen the terrible power in him. Though the beast had acted bravely in the face of that at the time, Kiba had professed that the dog had been having occasional nightmares since then. Anyone would be unhappy, having to watch and get directions from him all the time, remarked Kiba. That, and Neji's kind of similar to him. They were both called geniuses, after all, and if opposites attract, then like things repel. Could that be what's bothering Naruto-kun? Wondered Hinata. He does have to watch him at night after all. It could be, came a quiet voice from the shadows. Everyone had all but forgotten about the quiet and reserved Shino, who sat on a log slightly away from the group, barely close enough to the fire to feel its warmth. His face, shadowed by the night in addition to his heavy hooded jacket and dark sunglasses, was nearly invisible. But, he continued, I believe that it is not the only thing affecting him. Naruto is likely suffering from fatigue. That's not possible, Sakura interjected. I checked him just this morning, and he was as healthy as ever physically. Shino's eyebrows, invisible in the darkness, narrowed slightly, but he did not express his annoyance. To call a girl on rudeness would not avail him anything. Besides, Sakura was a trusted comrade, starting an argument with her over trivial things would weaken the team. Instead, he opted to continue speaking as if nothing had happened. Naruto is likely suffering from fatigue of the mind. He has been under much pressure lately. The combination of the situation with Sasuke, his missing friend, Keisuke, and the sudden discovery of Hinata's affections has likely overwhelmed him. Hinata's eyes widened. Be because of me. Ha! Kiba laughed. If you ask me, he's no different from normal. Kiba reached down to feed Akamaru a scrap of jerky. The dog accepted the dried meat with a gleeful yip, and his master gave him a rough pat on the head and scratched his ears. When he looked up, however, Kiba leaned toward Hinata. If there is something wrong with him, I don't think it's your fault, Hinata. Hell, if he didn't go out of his way to spend so much time with you during the day. An embarrassed blush found its way to Hinata's face. Kiba-kun. Quote. Oh, said Kiba, picking it up and handing it to her, here. Thanks, came the reply. Haruka took a swig and said. No, Sakura volunteered, we were thinking about how Naruto's been acting strange lately. Shino took his turn to interrupt Sakura. Hinata seems to have interpreted, mistakenly, in my opinion, that her confession to Naruto is part of the root of his problems. Haruka chewed an apple chip as she thought it over. Swallowing and taking another drink, she leaned towards the fire. An oddly serious look was on her face. Well, it's actually not that far-fetched, she said. People, particularly thick-skulled men, tend to get a little weird when they learn about this kind of thing. Oh, asked Kiba, you know from experience. Immediately after the words were out of his mouth, the dog trainer regretted them. For one long second, Haruka fixed him with a look that was half hurt and all poison. Everyone present who knew Haruka well also knew that Kiba had just crossed a dangerous threshold. No, said Haruka coolly, seeming to let it slide. Her eyes did not fall on Kiba again that night, however. But I do know people who do. That's not what we're talking about now. My point is this. Good idea, Kiba said, picking up on Haruka's direction. You've taken a step, but Naruto's still dense, so it might not have sunk in all the way. You ought to make another move on him, Hinata. Hinata's discomfort grew rapidly. The last thing she needed was for Kiba to start teasing her again about Naruto. Haruka, not having Keisuke to torment at the moment, seemed to have chosen Naruto and Hinata as her new primary playthings, so she had that covered. Pink in the face, she rose from her seat. Excuse me, she said, I have to go check something. She didn't wait for the next remark, but escaped speedily into the forest with as much dignity as she could muster. Haruka leaned back and gave a sigh. Oh well, she said, I guess I'll let her off easy today. She did do really well in the exercise today, after all. Sakura watched Hinata go, feeling somewhat sorry for her shy friend. She turned to Haruka and Kiba with reproachfulness in her green stare. You really shouldn't be pushing her, she reprimanded them. Hinata's come really far in the last few weeks already. Don't you think she deserves a break? Maybe, admitted Haruka, but I'd get bored otherwise, and I doubt you'd want me having fun at your expense instead. With that, the older Hyuga got back up from her perch and stretched herself out. No, said Sakura to herself, I don't think I would. Then, more audibly, I personally think that Hinata's done all that she can. She won't push forward any further until she gets a response from Naruto. Which, considering how blockheaded he is, said Kiba, could happen maybe this century, maybe next century, or maybe not at all. Oh, come on, have faith in the kid, said Haruka. I spent 2 years with him, and he eventually figures things out. She gave a yawn. Well, I'm going to sleep. If Naruto doesn't come back, wake me up. I'll prod someone into going after him. Night. Good night, Haruka-san, said Sakura. Night, said Kiba. Sakura waited until she was out of earshot before she said, Haruka-san seems to be acting awfully cheerful since we left, she observed. I heard that after the attack, she was very unstable, which is understandable, considering what happened to Keisuke-san. What happened, do you think? Got me, said Kiba. All I know is, I never want to get on her bad side. She is like Naruto in many ways, Shino put in. She enjoys pranks, and she gets a thrill from battle. And also, she is skilled at creating a mask to cover up her insecurities. Sakura took this in with a ponderous expression. It seemed a plausible analogy. But was it the truth? If it was, then did that make what was under the mask dangerous? Many noble people had kept their inner desires suppressed for a long time, only to let them manifest at the worst times. Such an incident had ruined Team 7. Her thoughts were interrupted as Kiba gave a yawn of his own. Well, he said, I think Akamaru and I'll hit the sack, too. Winning can take a lot out of you. He started off towards his tent, which he had pitched furthest from the fire. As he went, Sakura decided that perhaps she had been thinking about it too hard. Haruka was probably harmless, in exactly the way that Naruto was harmless. Ark! Came a sharp yell from Kiba's tent. Wah! What the hell is this? Well, maybe not totally harmless. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.